Good morning, everybody. Old Guy Jamming here. Hit that subscribe button. You never know what's going to be coming down the pipe. Today, I'm going to show you, we're going to try to bring back a pretty bad guitar. A student brought in, it's their electric guitar, and it's not in the best of shape. And we're going to see about bringing it back to life. I'm going to show you what we need to go over, and then there'll be some short clips of stuff as I move through it. Okay? There was this other one I got from somebody. It was an acoustic guitar from Canada, and it was actually a solid wood guitar, no laminate, all wood guitar, but it was old, really dried out, really bad. You could have almost put your hand in under the strings, and over a period of about 3 weeks, I was able to bring it back to play really nice. It was unbelievable. I was pretty proud of myself. But I wished I had documented it because it was so outrageous looking at the beginning. And then it came back and it was actually a very nice guitar. It would need 2 or 3 more setups in a year. Well, at least 2 more setups in a year. Like, you can't set up a guitar that's way out. You can't do it in one sitting, one setup. You need to adjust it, play it, adjust it, play it, and then, keep work on it maybe one more time. But it takes a few weeks for it to settle in to the adjustments you've made, because it's wood, and wood is going to continue to flex and find its new happy spot. Anyway, let's take a look at this thing. It is an electric guitar by BC, probably a BC Rich ripoff. A couple of string trees here, really thick neck, but it looks like a rosewood fingerboard. So that's not so bad. Some pretty good scuffing right here. I don't know what happened, but the nut is extending out over the edge of that quite a bit. So we'll file that down. Tuners are probably okay for what it is. It does have a truss rod adjustment right there. So that's good. We've got some things to work with. But right up here at the top first, notice the distance between the string and the nut is outrageous. So that's going to have to come down a lot. Good thing we have those nut files. If you haven't seen my nut file video on how to make some nut files, check it out. They're handy to have. But let's go back to the guitar. Neck joint looks fine. Down here, there's not a lot of gap between it there or on the other side. So there's no shimming in there. It's tight, and that's a good sign. If we look at the string height between the strings and the neck down here, we notice that, oh my gosh, again, you could almost put your whole finger under there. Really high. So we're going to have to take that into consideration. I don't know if you can see how bent the neck is. Yeah, you're not going to be able to, well, you can kind of see it right there. And believe it or not, this is actually better than it was when it came in already. The strings were overly tight and the neck was pretty bad, and it's got a double bend in it, which is going to be a problem. That means a double bend is something that's kind of particular to Fenders, actually. Because they have a single piece maple neck, which is another thing I don't care for about Fenders. Just really, I don't think their stuff's that great. But people are all over it. It's a piece of Americana. It's, what it is. But a double bend means that here at the 12th fret, the neck will actually dive down a little bit before it comes back up. So your adjustments to the neck are particularly difficult because of this down swoop it takes here. So anytime to get the neck here up usually means that the neck here is always going to be a little high as well. But with time and patience, it works out. All right, let's look further on down. The pickups are probably going to be fine. They'll have to be adjusted later. There's a lot of dirt and grime in here. The neck is a floating tremolo, but it looks like what they tried to do was lock it out by tightening all these screws down, and you can't do that. If you're going to block this out, you have to do it from the back. So you can see it's slightly raised off the body, So we'll take the strings clear off, loosen these screws, and adjust this properly. And I'll go over that. There's a specific way to set up these 6 screw tremolo bridges, and then we'll block it out in the back because a student doesn't need to be messing with that. And on this guitar, I don't think it would be a good idea anyway because it's not of the best quality. Back in here, I don't know what went on, but there's a whole bunch of just really weird garbage back here. Strings of stuff. There's glue or paint stuck to the springs. So this will all come out too when we take the strings off. What's concerning is that this tensioner bar is screwed all the way back into the body already, which means we don't have a lot of tension here to play with. With this being screwed all the way back in, this bridge ought to be completely locked out against the body on the front side. So we'll see. And then we'll lock it out by putting a block in back here so that the bridge is fixed. And I have the cover plate, but this is weird, you know? Just left over, maybe remnants from the craftsmanship, quote unquote craftsmanship, or they tried to stuff some blocks in here and it just broke down or something. I have no idea. Okay, so the plan will be to take the strings off, adjust the neck, file that nut down, strings off, adjust the neck, adjust this bridge, get it freed up and adjusted properly, put the strings back on. Oh, first check the frets for leveling, see if we have any high frets that need to be filed down, and then we'll restring it, maybe adjust the neck again, oil the fingerboard. It has a lot of, the other thing is it's got some fret sprout on this side, sharp to the finger, sharp to the touch. I can hit that with some sandpaper and or even just keep it in the shower for a weekend. And by in the shower, I don't mean literally in the shower. I mean put a guitar stand in your tub or in the shower room in your bathroom, and then go ahead and your family, you and your wife or whoever, take showers, some steamy showers, and you let this guitar sit in a wet environment, a humid environment, and that does wonders for the neck, the body in general. Especially if you buy a guitar off of Reverb, where it's been sitting in its original carton for maybe years, 6 or 7 years. It's really going to be dried out. Often the frets will be extended past the fingerboard, and just a couple of days in a humid environment is enough to swell that wood back to where you don't need to worry about the frets. True story. It works. Okay, so I'm going to get on it, come back with the results, and a few things as I go, probably. All right, we're back, and I'm going to start with putting some of this light lily white lubricant. I always do this on the tuning pegs because they get dry in there, and this guitar in particular I'm sure is dry, so I'll do this at the beginning. When I loosen them, I'm going to put a drop on each of the stems. I will loosen the strings with my twirler, cut them off, and then continue to twirl them a little bit, and then when I put new strings back on, I'll add some more oil so that it can get down there and get into the gears. If I need to adjust these, they feel pretty good, not loose or too tight. But the lighter oil, and I've had luthiers even tell me that you can put, there are some people that just use 30 weight motor oil. So the idea that it has to be some sort of special lubricant is not true. You just need those gears to work freely together. The thing I like about lighter oil is that it can reactivate old grease, whereas if you add thick oil to thick grease, it can just get gummed up a little bit. It doesn't quite free up as nicely as adding light oil to old grease. The light oil really breaks down more of the old grease and provides some really slick lubrication. Now this nut may even pop right off. I'm going to see once the strings are off. It's in a groove, and if the whole thing will come off, I'm going to file down the back side rather than filing down these individual grooves, because this is already set up like I want it. strings should run over the top of a bridge, not way down inside grooves. They should run over the top of the bridge so they don't get pinched. So we'll see about that, and then I'll apply oil right away to this fretboard so that it can start soaking it up, and then we'll work on the other stuff. So oil in the pegs, check out the nut, strings off, then oil this board. I can check for high frets right now to see if there's anything that's grossly high, but I should probably wait until the next straighter before checking for the high frets with my straight edge. And for the fretboard, I like F1 just because there's nothing in it that might react negatively to the fret glue. Where lemon oil, there's rumor or people that have said it can react negatively with the glues that are used on your frets. Okay, so that's where we're at. Boom, untwirl, get it on. Alrighty, and give credit where credit's due. We got Mr. Hedgie with us today helping out. I like to use Mr. Hedgie because when I put the guitar back down, it makes a sound, and that makes me happy. It reminds me of my puppy. Good times. So this nut did just pop right out. I tapped it a little bit, but often these are set with a very light glue, like even an Elmer's paper glue. It's just something to keep it stuck in there, even on acoustics. It's usually set with just some light duty glue, and if you're careful, you can tap it. But this came out very easily, so that's cool because I'm going to just sand the whole back of this on some paper instead of trying to adjust each slot. So that's cool. Then this looks pretty clean, but before you oil it, you want to clean it, and I do that with just a little Windex and a toothbrush. I'm trying this one fret right here because the whole fretboard doesn't look that bad, and it's really not too dirty. So I'm just going to wipe it down and then oil it because there's no point in getting it wet with Windex first and then trying to put oil on it because the oil, I'd either have to wait until all the moisture from the Windex evaporated or put the oil on, but then if you have water under oil, you get it. So I'm just going to wipe this with a damp cloth because there's not a lot of grime on there, and then I'll oil it up and continue. When you're applying your F1 oil, all you need, and these frets, I just wanted to show you, the frets are so sharp and hanging over that they've trapped little bits of the paper towel as I was wiping it down, and to just show you how they were tearing the paper. A lot better than the Chapman I played at Guitar Center. Sorry, I need to let it go. Anyway, when you're putting this oil on, just put a dab into each spot and then come back and lay it on. Don't get crazy with it. You can always put more on, but it's hard to take off. And then with your finger, just put it around in each of the fret areas. And if you run out, grab some from somewhere else where you have a generous amount. And I'll tell you right now, this is not rosewood. It almost has the feel of bamboo, although it's not bamboo. I'm not sure what it is, but it's not ebony and it's not rosewood. So not quite sure what it is. But get your oil on and then let that start to soak in as you work on other aspects of the guitar. And you'll see in what kind of shape the neck is in based on the amount of oil that you get soaked up even within the first couple of minutes. All right. And it's interesting, on my reverb guitars, I have found that they will soak up a lot of oil, and then I need to put them in the bathroom over a weekend to make sure they get nice and rehydrated. All right, back in a second. Okay, the oil is starting to work into the fretboard, and some of those spots are already drying up, soaking up the oil, which you can see real dry in there already. Still wet at the octave, but up here towards the front, soaking up. So it's liking that. And then back here, I got the springs out of the bridge, and it's still well off the body. Well, that knob's in the way there. There you go. Well off, and it's totally locked up. It doesn't want to move real well. And there's just a whole bunch of garbage in here. These springs just pop out. Use a pair of needle nose so you can get a good grab on the bent part, and then you push back and just pull it out. But this should move real free, so I'm going to take it out, or at least loosen it up, and then probably take a chisel or something and scrape. There's just a lot of what looks like leftover paint maybe. It's a mess. But on this setup here, these bridges with 6 screws like to be set up so that you need all these, first of all, you need them all loose enough so that the bridge will rock back and forth through its full range of motion, so that it rocks all the way up and down with the bottom piece, the metal block, running into the body of the guitar. And then you have it, you set it up so that the bridge is fully in this direction, so that it's hitting the bottom or the body right there. See that? It's knocking up against the body of the guitar. And then to set it up properly, in that position, you start tightening your screws in the other direction until they cause the bridge to come down just a hair. Right there, that screw is starting to push the bridge back down. So I will take it to that point and then back it off just a touch so that the bridge returns to where it was. And I'll repeat the process with this screw. Take it down until the bridge just starts to come back against my finger, and then back off that screw so the bridge comes back up. Repeat here. Take it back down until it causes the bridge to move down, then back it off. Same way here, just comes down, back it off. Take it down till it pushes, then back it off. Take it down till it pushes, and then back it off. Now we have this set up equally, and you really don't want it hitting the body, you want it just off, and it is. If you can see in there, it's not hitting the body now, it's just a hair off here. So the screws are performing their job just like they should. Plus, now it goes all the way down flat against the body like it should there. Alright, so a couple of problems already solved. We'll clean out that cavity, work on the neck, get this nut file down, string it, maybe take some sandpaper on those frets, and then we'll start to set it up. All right, checking back in. It's been about an hour. The oil on the neck has all soaked in. I didn't wipe any of that off. It just all soaked in. So that's pretty cool. I've taken down the nasty fret edges with just a light sanding block. And you really can't, don't be afraid. Don't be an idiot though either. But if you if you care to, you can tape off your guitar. And then you can just roll this back and forth down the side of the frets. The only thing you're hitting is going to be the end of those frets. And if you do get a little bit of your guitar neck, then that's called a rolled edge, and that's highly desired as well. Unless you're attacking this with a Dremel or something, you really can't go wrong. You just got to be careful and don't use too heavy a sandpaper. And it really makes a big difference. So I sanded that down. Feels good. I also sanded the neck here. Feels real nice. I took out of the back of this right here with a chisel. Wasn't too hard, but I took all this junk out. The body is starting to delaminate, but it's more than that. It's just was a whole bunch of just gross paint and all sorts of junk. I did have to shim the neck, so I took these 4 bolts off and I cut a piece of credit card. Cut the corners off just a little bit so it fit in the cavity real well. It fits in the cavity between these set of screws, these 2 screws, and the body. So a strip about that wide. And then screwed it back in. and it lines up. You can see perhaps a little bit of a gap right down in there, but certainly not enough. But I had to do that in order for the neck to line up with the strings down here. I also tightened the truss rod about a quarter of a turn because the neck was convex, and I want to start pulling the neck back in the other direction this way, so that when the strings pull back against it, the neck pulls back just a little bit with the string tension without being too swoopy. All right, so that's where we're at so far. Nothing too major, just basic stuff, attention to detail, the kind of thing that takes manufacturers too long to do sometimes. This guitar is not a real nice guitar. It's like something you'd buy. It comes with a little tiny amp, or at a yard sale or Walmart. I'm going to start sanding down this nut, and it's got to come down quite a bit. One thing you need to do is make a symmetrical line with an indelible marker across the bottom, so that as you sand, you know that you're taking off the same amount on both sides of the nut. If you don't make that line, you may end up taking more off this end or that end. So you put a margin on there that's the same all the way across. Sand this way, then turn it around. Sand this way, then turn it around. Sand this way. Takes time and your fingers get tired, but that's all good. And I think we're going to end up with something pretty nice. We'll see. All right, back later. I've taken the nut down and glued that back in with just a touch of wood glue on the back, just a dot here and a dot there, because you do want it to be set. You don't want it loose or vibrating, but it will certainly just pop right back out if we need to. All that oil soaked in. The neck's nice and smooth. The bridge is adjusted properly so that it works. We're not going to use it as a tremola, but to lock these out, to make this a hardtail, the way to not do it is screwing all these in. And I showed you how to adjust those. Take it up till it hits the body in the back, and then with your fingers under it, tighten each one till it pushes back against your finger, and then just undo it an eighth or a quarter turn. But whatever you do to one, do it the same to all, so that you end up hitting against all the screws, not the body. But that should move freely. But we're going to have the spring tension high enough to keep that locked down. We're not going to use a bar. I don't even know if she has one, but a beginning student doesn't need to worry about that anyway. So where we are now is also, when I was back in here cleaning this out, I noticed that the ground wire was loose on the spring retainer. So I hit it with a plug of solder. That would have been terrible to have these single coils. If they are single coils, they probably are. But that would have caused them to buzz even louder than they would normally. Also, under these tabs, there was a weird scratching noise. And what I found out was the plastic hadn't been fully removed. The plastic protective guard that goes over all this hadn't all been removed, and so it was making a scratchy noise under the pots. So with that removed, now they are silent. Hopefully we don't have any electronic issues. I really hope not. I'm into this thing about 2 hours already, but it's rewarding, and it's for a good cause. I want the student to have a really good experience, and there's nothing worse than fighting an instrument that's not a good instrument or even decent. So what I'm going to do now is level the fret. The neck is already flattened out from the rod adjustment. We will take care of a high fret, and then we're going to restring it and see where everything is. We'll adjust the bridge here, and I won't worry about the nut down here, and we'll see what the neck needs. Hopefully it's going to be okay, but any other adjustments we will wait until we change strings again, and then if we want to or need to, we'll adjust this nut. We'll adjust the neck if we need to. make changes down here at the bridge. But it's also at that point she may decide that she would like to buy a better instrument, and there would be no need to put more time into this one. Okay, so but let's get it up and playing real nice. Now, as I looked down the neck from the headstock toward the body, I could see one of the frets was high. So again, we're going to use our tool here, and you just play teeter-totter back and forth. You would need to cross 3, and anytime you get a rock, then you know that's the fret that's going to be high. Now, you can see that. Oh, good, you can see it. That doesn't look like a lot, but it is compared to back here, where if I rock, there's no movement. Here, that's considerable, especially given where it is. All right, so that fret right there is the offending fret. So we'll mark that with some dry erase. Double check. And also you run right into it when you're coming up this way. You run right into it. So just to make sure we're on the right page, that one is high, and that's in a really bad spot because we're going to be doing a lot of bending here and a lot of bending here. And once we get up to here, it won't matter, but bends here will fret out on that. We don't want that. So I'm going to go out and take a flat file, just like, I don't know. Well, you can picture this as a flat file. And with the focus of my energy, most of the force being applied right here on this fret, I'm going to go back and forth. If I hit some of these, it's totally okay. Most of my energy is I'm going to try to keep the file right on top of this fret, back and forth nice and light till that material's gone, and I'll probably hit it with a permanent marker again so that the ink stays. It'll actually go down into these this metal a little bit, down into the porous part of the metal, and we'll just rub back and forth on that till I'm hitting on all these, and then I'll buff it with some 1000 emery cloth or sandpaper, and then we're done. We'll restring it, see where we're at. All right, we're back one more time. The offending fret was here, I believe. Yeah, right in here. Anyway, now we have no more rocking. We have nice, just a tad there, but not anything. A tad is nothing to worry about. You can get yourself into more trouble worrying about a little tad than just having it nice and smooth across there. Hit it with file, and then cleaned it up with 1000 grit. And now we're nice and smooth. Another thing I should mention is before you start filing down frets, you should see that they haven't popped out of the fretboard, which is something can happen on an older guitar. Some of the frets can be up a little bit, and all you need to do is use your finger to put some down pressure on them, and then with a nice hammer, small hammer, give them a nice solid tap, and that will reseat them in the fretboard material. I don't like to do that a lot because the more one moves, the more it will move. But that's sometimes the reason for a high fret rather than the fret itself being high. In this case, the fret was high. We're done with the setup. Going to string it and see how it sounds. Okay, so it works fine. It's strings are still stretching, but it's surprisingly kind of good already. It stays in tune well enough, and like I said, the strings are still brand new, and still got a high fret one back here. There's a little dead spot here. The neck has this dip here, so we'll give that a couple of days, and then we'll just go ahead and let her start playing it. There's plenty of potential to start learning some stuff down here. So that'll be fun, and then we'll go through it when we change strings. We'll do a final leveling and any other adjustments. Take the nut down a little bit. That could still move down. It's plenty low on the high strings, but on the lower strings, particularly the E and the A, that could come down a little bit further, and we could do that with a nut file. But we're in good enough position or good enough place where we can start playing electric instead of acoustic. It doesn't sound half bad. It's a very bright guitar. Anyway, thanks for watching. Old Guy Jamming. Anybody can set up any guitar. You just have to have a little knowledge, a little bit of patience, and follow great tutorials like this one. Subscribe, share. We'll see you next time.